Good morning again to you. Welcome to this week's edition of Landscape Smart, brought to you by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. Ron Rademann, present and accounted for in the studio. Good morning, sir.
Well, good morning, Jerry.
Notice the respect you command.
I don't know about that. But
Also joining us, Master Gardener Delores. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you again. And, of course, the lines are open. 923-1450, 1-888-900-1450. And don't forget, you can email your questions. I'll be monitoring the email, kfizstudio@gmail.com. But because they don't always land here as soon as you email them or Gmail them or Qmail them or whatever you're doing, send it in early. Then we can get the question to the experts here and get your question answered.
or send us a picture.
Or send us a picture, yeah. And I'll turn the screen so you can see it, because if I look at it, I'll say, yeah, here's a picture.
There's a picture that doesn't help us much.
Yeah, right. So you're open today, back in season.
Yeah, Rademann's is open this morning, open until noon on Saturdays. I already heard from Joe. He says we're booked pretty tight on deliveries. So,
Wow.
So that's always
That's great.
Yeah. So that means there's a lot of people trying to get some things done here this weekend.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like it's going to be a decent weekend to get stuff done.
Yeah, actually, that part of it'll, should work out pretty good. And, then we get to Monday and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So yeah, get your things done early this weekend. And of course, even though we can't work in a delivery for you today, you can still stop on out to Rademann's and pick up whatever you're looking to do, whatever you feel like working
Whatever
on.
your little heart desires.
Whatever you feel like working on today, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of my recliner, but that's not going to get much done outside. 923-1450, lines are open. As long as we got a couple minutes here, you've got a garden event coming up really, really soon.
That's right. The Master Gardeners have their annual plant sale in 2 weeks on May 10th. It's from 9 to 3 in the morning, and we have a lot of specialty items. We have hanging baskets of annuals, and we just have single pots of annuals along with perennials. And if you're interested, you could bring your own container garden or pick up one that we have there, and we will put bark and soil in for you for $5, and then you pick out the plants you want to put in it, and our expert Patty will pot it up for you. And she usually has some really good suggestions of how to make your pot pop.
So she's now known as Potting Patty.
Pretty much. Yeah, and we have a nice little garden shop off on the side that has lots of garden-related items like tools, decorative pots. That's where we sell our succulents and house plants in decorative pots. And I know there's going to be some birdhouses there too. So it's very interesting. You don't have to have a garden to come. And then we do have vegetables. And
vegetable plants.
Plants,
Yeah.
yes, vegetable plants.
You're not selling a basket of tomatoes.
Not today, no.
Not yet, maybe in the fall.
Yeah.
But they start so many vegetables in the greenhouse, and they're coming along just beautifully. This warmer weather has made everything grow so nice in the greenhouse.
All righty, so 2 weeks from today, 9 until 3,
Yes.
Fairgrounds.
At the fairgrounds in the Cow Palace. If you don't know where it is, look where the cars are all parked on the south end.
Yeah, you can't miss it.
Follow the crowd.
Follow the crowd. You got
Absolutely.
that right. It's always a fun event, though.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's great.
yeah,
Can't wait to see you there again.
It's pretty much an annual trip.
Uh-huh.
And I got to say, the tomato plants that I've gotten there are the best tomato plants I've ever gotten. They're beautiful.
Well, they do the testing, and
Right.
they're going to work in our area because, the master gardeners have been growing them, here year after year, so they know which ones work the best in our area.
Right.
So,
There's some tomatoes, people want the beef steak, and they're an 89-day tomato, so you gotta be ready to wait for them. And but there's a tomato called 4th of July and Early Girl and Wisconsin 55. Those are much earlier because they're much smaller tomatoes. So if you want to eat tomatoes early, you have to plant something that doesn't get big. And if you like those cherries, there's different kinds of cherry tomatoes, and they get ripe nice and early. It's nice to go out, work in the garden, pop a tomato in your mouth.
Yeah, a lot of times they never make it into the house.
No, not at my house either.
No, it's amazing how that happens. I'm trying to find
I'd
a
rather
plant
have
that
a
grows Hershey bars.
I'd rather have a smaller tomato in July than a big. I'm kind of sick of them. By the time the fresh tomatoes, by the time you wait all the way till the end of August, then So I'd rather, and you grab the smaller ones. And I eat them kind of like an apple.
I do too.
I had the 4th of July tomato last year. I ate it on 4th of July.
Good for
and
you.
A very dark red and very, very tasty tomato.
I think I was eating them on the 4th of July last year too, and I think I had planted one of those. I bought all different plants.
Yeah, well, you should, because they each ripen at a different time. And I know there's also bush tomatoes that people like to just put in a container who don't have room for a garden. And that way it's a very compact plant.
Good for patios, balconies.
Right, they call them patio tomatoes or bush tomatoes. And I know there's several of those. That's a really nice way to get a tomato if you're in an apartment.
Well, and I see people even, that are out in the country and they have 2 or 3 acres, but they still grow their tomatoes in containers because it's convenient.
And
they almost grow more as an ornamental.
Right.
You've got the red cherries there, which kind of brighten up the, you can put them on the corner of your patio or deck, whether you have a big yard or not. It's still easier to.
And if
it's
they're
an easy plant to maintain.
And if they're in a
container.
darker pot, the sun will warm up the pot, and that will help them a lot. But they might need more water that way too.
Yeah, they are going to need a little more attention if they're in a pot.
We found that out a couple of years ago. We did one. I had bought too many, so we stuck a couple in pots. I was doing a lot of pot watering.
Yeah.
I mean, plant watering.
There we go, Jerry. Get yourself.
I don't want to get myself in trouble here by watering my pot. 923-1450.
We better move on to a different subject. Jerry.
Phone numbers 923-1450, 1-888-900-1450. Online, KFIZ Studio at gmail.com is the email address. Get your questions in. In the interim, we're going to take our first break.
Sounds like a plan. Rademann's is open today, open till noon on Saturdays, Monday through Friday till 4:30, and you can stop on out and visit us, get the answers to all your lawn and gardening questions, or pick up some work, one or the two. We're just 3 miles south of Fond du Lac, and then just east on County B, about a quarter mile right there at the crest of the hill.
KFIZ News Time 821. We are back. Landscape Smart brought to you by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. Ron Rademann here. Master Gardener Delores is here. And we have an email that says, we planted a smoke bush last year. This year, I see little black dots on the branches. Is it budding or am I seeing things? Scott would like to know.
They didn't send a picture, did they?
Negative.
Usually, plants set their buds in the fall or the summer before, and so that's probably the buds.
That's what I'm thinking too. Is that it's just the because on a smoke bush they're purple
plumes
and purple foliage, purple leaves.
Beautiful.
So with that, the buds are pretty black, or dark purple. So I think that's probably what he's just seeing are the buds there and typically buds are green. So that would be a little bit of a possibility of confusion when you see black buds or dark purple buds instead of green buds. But that's why on a smoke bush you're seeing that. With smoke bush, a lot of times the tips will die back, or you have those plumes that are there, and it's always best to kind of clip those back a little bit each year at this time of year, or once you can kind of see those black buds swelling. It might be just smoke bush bud out, flower out, leaf out a little bit later than a lot of plants. So you might have to wait another week. And it's kind of like, this is always an interesting week, because I was walking around my own yard at home and I was noticing how some of the varieties of hydrangea, the PG varieties that are in the sun, the buds are green and growing, and I can see where to trim them. And then you go on to the east side and the north side, where I have some twist and shout hydrangea, which are the ones that do a little bit better with a little more shade, or not. Let me rephrase that. They don't like that hot late afternoon sun. And of course because they're on the east side, they don't show that. They aren't showing new growth yet, so there's no buds to see. So this is the week it's kind of confusing. You go out there because you think, oh, I can trim my hydrangeas, and then you get halfway around the house and you got to stop and wait another week. So
it's similar with rose bushes. You don't want to trim them until you see where they're starting to grow.
Yeah, the same rule would apply there. And
Right.
of course, with the roses, a lot of times though the stems are green if they're alive, or they're
Right.
black if they're
Right.
if
If
they're
they're
dead.
Yeah.
And
My rugosa is budding out already,
yeah, you can.
but they're so hardy.
Yeah, but there too, you know, if you see black canes, black stems on the roses, go ahead and get those out of there right
Right.
now. And then roses still kind of always benefit from a little thinning, you know, especially the rugosa rose varieties, the shrub roses we're talking about now.
Right.
Those, if you can thin them out a little bit and take out some of those thickest canes, you'll get more new growth and more. With roses, the more new growth you get, the more flowers you get. So you want to thin those out at this time of year. And even it's not too late. I was in a friend's yard yesterday, actually, and we were talking about he had some dogwoods, and I said, yeah, go ahead and thin those out yet too, because they weren't really even showing any life at all yet. Of course, and these were on the north side too, so they weren't on the where. If you're on the south side or west side at this time of year, you kind of get that heat reflection, sunlight bouncing off your siding, or the side, you know, so that side of the house warms up a week earlier than the north side or the east side does. So, and this is one of those weeks where you're kind of right in between on this stuff. Whereas in another week or two, well, then it won't matter which side of the house you're on. And we're getting close around here. Not too many things are leafed out and growing, but I was coming through Madison on Thursday afternoon. I was down there, and it was just interesting to see there, like the lilacs are leafed out and growing in Madison, where here in Fond du Lac, the buds are swelling and they're getting close, but not
like
new
this.
growth on them like they are in Madison. So as you get a little further south and a little further west, it actually heats up, you know, to the west of us here in Fond du Lac before it.
And I'm in the country, and I'm a week behind that.
Well, and as you get closer to, you know, you get over to Kohler and Sheboygan and Manitowoc, you're another week behind. So it's a week difference between Manitowoc and Fond du Lac, and another week difference between Fond du Lac and Madison, and another week between Madison and Dubuque and Rockford, and you know, you just
It's so interesting. I saw on Facebook that Hearthstone in Madison, in Appleton. That's a big museum right on the river, and it had its star magnolia in full bloom a week ago because it's so much warmer on the river.
Uh-huh.
And Scott did send a picture in, and you got a chance to peek at it.
Oh,
Yeah, and those, and yeah, that definitely is just the,
oh, sure.
yeah, the purple, dark purple buds or black buds that are just the
Yeah,
typical.
it looks healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Looks real
It
good.
looks good.
If you don't know, it looks like bugs.
Yeah.
If you don't know that.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah, because it is a little bit, because those purple smoke bush have those black buds, it is a little bit different than most other plants that have.
It definitely doesn't look like insects.
Nope, it looks good.
Yeah.
Looks good and healthy. Mhm.
Yeah.
That should put his mind at ease.
So yeah, just kind of, that was kind of a good close-up of the branches and stems that he sent through. So that helps us a lot. Mm-hmm.
So you got that opportunity. If you send an email, you can send a picture, and it makes it much easier to see than to try to figure out between the lines exactly what you're dealing with. Lines are open, by the way, 923-1450, 1-888-900-1450 for the outlying areas. Feel free to give us a call. They're ready, willing, and able.
If you're coming to the plant sale and you have some garden questions, and especially if you have pictures, just bring them along. We have a lot of experts. We don't all know all the answers, but a lot of us know a lot of the answers. So we can help you out. We can research for you. But bring your questions. We do it every year. And also, we have a section where one gal just sits with the computer and looks up things for people.
Helps them.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And where she's sitting, we have a seed library where there's samples of different kinds of seeds. So if you want to try a certain kind of pepper, but you don't want to pay $4 for a package, there will be a few seeds in a package, and they're free. You can leave a donation if you take a lot of different seeds, but these are free.
Alrighty.
And we have native plants, vegetables, and flowers.
Alrighty. We got a caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. Am I allowed to tell the listeners about an African Violet show that will be happening next weekend?
Sure.
I couldn't understand.
Okay. The Oshkosh African Violet Society will be having their annual African Violet Show and Sale next weekend, May 3rd and 4th, at St. Jude the Apostle Church Hall in Oshkosh here, and that's located at 531 Knapp Street. And the hours are Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4:30. And on Sunday from 11:30 to 3 p.m.
Tell us a little bit more about the show, as long as you got everybody's attention here. Do they have like demonstrations? Are they selling African violets there? What all goes on?
Yes, there will be hundreds of African violets and related plants will be on exhibit and also for sale. We will be selling supplies such as soil, pots, and fertilizer, and there will be club members there available to answer the public's questions regarding African violets and related plants. And we
And
will
the date again?
The date is May 3rd and 4th,
Next weekend. Mm-hmm.
So there's free parking and free admission, and it is handicapped accessible.
Well, thanks for the update. Yeah.
Excellent.
Appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much.
Good luck with your sale.
Thank you.
Take care. 923-1450, 1-888-900-1450. Lines are open and available should you have a question or two. We're talking about buying these tomato plants, et cetera, et cetera. When are we safe to plant these tomato plants outside?
The best time is when the ground is 70 degrees. You want the ground to be warm enough so you don't shock your tomatoes. And then don't water them with cold water either.
Kind of hard to get warm water out of the hose.
Well, what I do is I keep sprinkling cans of water so the sun shines on them, so it's a lot warmer than out of the hose, out of my well, because the well water's pretty cold.
Well, and especially right now, if you've got
Right.
the ground temperatures aren't anywhere close to 70 degrees
No.
right now yet, because we've only had a day or two that's even hit 70.
Yeah.
So we're a ways away from
Right.
from that yet.
Yeah.
So Memorial Day or mid-May, late May?
Sometimes it depends on what kind of weather we have, but sometimes you can get them in the ground a week before Memorial Day,
But that's safe
May
typically.
15th. Some years.
So even though we can buy them, we need to care for them before we
Mm-hmm.
stick them in.
And you might want to check that the plants have not gotten root bound. Tap them out of the pot, and if they've got a lot of roots, especially if they're circling on the bottom, you want to just trim those off. You aren't going to hurt them by trimming the roots.
Oh,
And maybe put them in a bigger pot. I do that a lot.
If you end up hanging on to them for a couple of weeks while you're waiting for the
Right.
first summer to come.
yeah. 923-1450, in case you didn't jot it down, that's the number.
Right. And if, while we're talking about plants in pots, you should think about the nutrition for them. If you don't want a lot of growth on your tomato, make sure that the first number on your fertilizer is small, because that's nitrogen, which grows green. And if you want a lot of fruit, that center number should be much higher, because that's for fruit and flowers. And, oh, I'm sorry, that's the third number. The second one is for roots. So if you don't have strong roots, you want a higher number for the second number.
And even a balanced fertilizer works. Just be
Right.
super. Don't use lawn fertilizer, which is very high in nitrogen. So you have to just, especially, it's again, you don't have to have the perfect fertilizer, but you definitely don't want the wrong one,
Well,
because you'll have 10-foot tall tomatoes
with
and
nothing on
with
them.
with no tomatoes to pick if you
Right.
fertilize them with lawn fertilizer.
And the thing about balanced fertilizer is the potting mix people use doesn't have much in it, so you need to add something to it.
Rademann carries a variety of fertilizers.
Yeah, we have
so
a
you can
lot
go in
of-
there and ask, this is what I want to do, and you get some guidance as to
Right,
what you
you'd
need.
have to just, we have like lawn starter fertilizer, or it works great in gardens too, because again, like Delores mentioned, it's you've got the higher middle and the second and the third numbers are twice as high as your first number. So that's what you kind of want to look for, and it doesn't really matter if it's 8, 16, 16 so much as you just want to, it's not that much different than 7, 14, 14.
Right.
Or so you don't have to be real particular about that. Just avoid the 30, 0, 0. That's your lawn fertilizer, because that's for growing grass, growing green. Your first number is nitrogen, like Delores said. So,
And when we get these tomato plants in, I was just looking online yesterday, so obviously everything is true. But
everything you can see online is
yeah,
100%
but these were
accurate.
actually tutorials that talk about the significance, if you want a decent crop, of proper pruning.
You can prune tomatoes. There's suckers on them that don't have any blossoms. But wait until you have blossoms to see what you can prune out of a tomato.
And that's what
because
they were saying.
It's just
go below
taking-
the
Right.
bottom flowers.
Yes, because those shoots are just taking energy away from the buds. Yeah.
And also, if you have low branches, they were talking about any leaves that are touching the ground, that needs to go, because that it makes it easier for disease to affect the plant.
Right.
That
and
sounds pretty.
especially fungus.
Yeah, you're going to get more fungus problems because that's
Right.
going to the
To
moisture on the foliage, and of course,
And a lot of people, to avoid that, do mulch their tomatoes. But be careful about what you mulch it with, because if you mulch it with something like grass clippings, that's full of nitrogen, and now you will get green growth and not tomatoes.
Maybe that's been my problem. 'Cause
See,
it was
a
a good. It's very effective at weed control.
well, for the just the actual, it breaks down, and like if you're using grass clippings, it's better. It works well though yet just to suppress weeds, and you don't get the puddling,
Right.
which creates the fungus problems 'cause if you got standing water or puddles. So
Alrighty. Morning, you're on the air.
Oh, good morning. Can I put granular fertilizer on my asparagus like now and still eat my asparagus? I don't want it to be, poison to us.
Fertilizer doesn't affect asparagus.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're putting it on the roots,
Right.
and then it's growing through that. But no, that's a good question. It wouldn't be good to like use a foliar spray
Right.
of fertilizer, but a granular would be ideal actually
And
because
right now,
you could do that right now.
and what strength would I use? What number?
Well, a good balanced fertilizer again, and when we say balanced, that just means all three numbers are
Similar.
similar.
On
And
asparagus, would it be 10 or 20? What would you say?
well, so usually it's kind of right in between 16, 16, 16 or 12, 18, 12 or something. And when we say, a 12, 18, 12 is still pretty balanced.
Okay.
Again, just, avoid like lawn fertilizer again, which is going to be 30-0-0 or 28-0-2 or something like that. Because you want, like Delores said, your second number is for root development. So, that's why that second number is important, because what you do with asparagus, you build
need roots.
you build a strong root system, you're going to have plenty of asparagus. And if you have a weak root system, you're not going to have asparagus. So
Okay. I just wanted to make sure if I did put the granular fertilizer on, that it is safe for us to eat.
oh sure.
Well, you
Okay,
might
that's
want
good.
to dissolve it. It depends on what you have.
Yeah, well,
You
I
might
would
want to dissolve it and fertilize the ground and make sure it doesn't get on the shoots.
spread the granular on and then soak it in good. Water it. If it we've
Yeah,
been
you
getting
don't wanna
pretty
burn it.
timely rains so far this year, but I would always, it's always best to water in any granular fertilizers.
Yeah.
Well, any fertilizer for that matter. It just
Okay,
kind of
good.
displaces it, spreads it around, and
Okay.
it rebalances it.
Yeah,
Thank
if
you.
it would be too thick, you could burn the roots.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And it's pretty old, so it'll be good. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thanks for the call. Lines are open, 923-1450, 1-888-900-1450. Email address, kfizstudio@gmail.com.
Yeah, out at Rademann's, we actually have, we don't have 30 or 40 different fertilizers like they do at some places. We try to keep it simpler, and then, we can help you pick out which ones are, you can use across all boards. And so we have like a lawn starter fertilizer, or, which is great for starting lawns. And if you're buying grass seed at Rademann's, it works out perfect. But you could also use that same fertilizer in your vegetable garden or on asparagus, because again, I don't remember the exact formulation, but it's kind of like 12, 18, 13 or something. And I don't know how they decide to come up with those numbers, but but anyway, that's what we call a balanced fertilizer, and it's lower in nitrogen and higher in phosphorus, and that's what builds up your root systems.
Right.
Whether it's the garden or your
grass.
brand new lawn, you want
Right.
if you have a good root system, you're going to have a good healthy plants. So.
Alrighty, why don't we venture into our second break?
Wow.
So, Rademann's open today until noon, Monday through Friday till 4:30. Joe says, don't call us today. We're already booked on deliveries, but he says stop on out and say hi, and he'll help you out with anything else you have a question on. Just 3 miles south of Fond du Lac, east on County Trunk B, about a quarter mile.
KFIZ News Time, 8:45. We are back. Landscape Smart, brought to you by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. For the record, lines are open, 923-1450, 1-888-900-1450. Of course, you've got the email option, kfizstudio@gmail.com. Rademann Stone and Landscape, the sponsor, and we don't talk about the stone and landscape angle very much.
Well, as far as stone goes, that's actually our main focus out at Rademann's. I mean, we started out in stone with my grandfather and, of course, my father, and now myself and Brock the next. So we're into the fourth generation of Rademann's working on stone at Rademann. So
So the family's well stoned.
Yeah. We're not going down that path.
Either, yeah, we were there halfway before.
Yeah.
We've got a caller, so let's put the stone on pause and see what kind of question we got. Good morning, you're on the air.
Yeah, I started to see a couple of those black beetles, I forget what they're called, that eat the leaves on the decorative tree. Do you have something to combat that?
You're seeing beetles right now?
Right.
Oh.
Are you sure you're not seeing black and red box elder bugs?
No, I don't think so.
Well,
We had
there's
a problem with them last year.
Well, and that's what you want to do is if you had a problem last year, you want to jump on it early.
Right.
And we have a insecticide at Rademann's. It's called 8, as in the numeral 8, not 8 as in eating. But yeah, 8, EIGHT. And that actually should work well on those. It's a real good cross-spectrum insecticide.
For Japanese beetles?
Well, I don't think he'd be seeing Japanese beetles this early.
I don't think so either.
No, but he just mentioned a black beetle, which...
Yeah, and I don't know what that would be. How big is the beetle?
Oh, bigger than
Half inch, quarter inch?
Yeah.
Yeah, in this, the insecticide 8 would take care of that. And it, it's a good cross spectrum insecticide. So it doesn't really matter so much which variety of beetle it is, because that'll knock it down. And if you can, a lot of these things,
Is that a concentrate or?
Well, yes, we actually have it in a couple of different ways out there at Rademann's, and it's you can either get some and spray it with, mix it up in a 1 gallon sprayer, 2 gallon sprayer, depending on how big of a problem you have, or you can actually we have it like in just a let's call it a Windex bottle even.
Oh, okay, great.
That you could just pick up a small bottle like that and spot spray if you've just got a minor problem. And sometimes that's enough to knock these things back a little bit at this time of year. Or there's also some that, like, we have a lot of the products in hose end sprayers too,
right?
Which are kind of easy. You don't have to try and compute the ounces to the gallons and all this stuff. You just hook it up on the end of your garden hose.
But there are a lot of beneficial insects out there, so you don't want to just willy-nilly spray. you want to make sure that the area needs spraying. There's the ladybugs that are so beneficial that eat aphids and things that you don't want to kill. So make sure you know what you're spraying.
Right.
These aren't ladybugs.
Yeah. Well, and if you had the problem last year, and then you kind of then you know, yeah. But like Delores did mention too, there are some insects that, so, not in your case, you've got it figured out, but if anybody else happens to be listening in, you have to be alert to that, because some insects are predator insects, and they actually solve your insects.
Right.
Some insects solve your insect problems for you. So just always be alert to that.
Right.
Like Delores said, you should really be identifying them,
Yeah.
So.
Just because it looks like an insect doesn't mean it's bad.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All righty, thanks for the call. Line is now open, 923-1450, 1-888-900-1450. Back to Stone. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say here, because always if you're tuning in late, you can always listen back and listen to the earlier parts of the show. You can jump online on YouTube and search for Landscape Smart 25, and you can listen to the beginning of the show or last week's show or whatever, however far you want to go back. You can listen to last year's shows in April too, if you want to, or we're available on demand also on KFIZ. So if you're tuning in late, you overslept a little bit, and you're getting into the last.
I should be so lucky.
5 or 10 minutes of the show, you can find out what we talked about during the first 45 minutes of the show. So,
if you're interested in getting into gardening, but you really don't have a spot for it, there are still spots available in the community garden. It's just across 41 from the airport, so it's close to town and easy to get to. And if you're interested, just call the UW Extension. I should have their phone number here, but it's easy enough to find it online. And just call them and see what is available for a spot.
Delores will find it here before we finish up the show.
She's got 7.5 minutes. She'll find it. Anyhow, is there a seasonal change in typical stones for patios, et cetera, or is pretty much what was here 5 years ago what's still here?
Well, what they've kind of done is they impregnate the colors way better now, whereas if you did a paver patio, let's just say 25 years ago, those colors have faded out pretty much, and you could start out with a nice rich brown or reddish brown, and then after 15 or 18 or 20 winters, you've lost a lot of that same color, and it's become more gray, black, But these new pavers, especially like the ones out at Rademann's that are, it's at the box stores, those places have to be a little competitive, and you don't quite get the quality at those places because they can't afford, no one would buy them. If you'd walk in there, because people that typically go there, they don't really know exactly what they're looking for. Well, you walk in there, and if you're at one place and the same a paver that looks the same is twice as expensive there is the one across the street, well, you're gonna buy that one. Whereas at Rademann's, we actually don't even carry any of those older styles anymore. We might have a few out in the back 40. If you break a few or bust some, or you need to replace some, we've probably got some out there yet somewhere. But the newer ones, and that's, they hold the color up so much better, and you can actually look right at them. They're smoother, and the water doesn't, they shed the water better, shed the snow better.
Okay, let's take a quick call before our final break. Go ahead, you're on the air.
Yes, I just have a quick question.
Sure.
My tulips, when they come up in the spring, which they're up now, 6 or so inches or more, only half of them bud out. The others just have green leaves and don't bud out. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong?
They could be crowded, they could be too deep, or if they have multiplied, they might be too young.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yep. Yeah.
I mean,
I'm thinking maybe they're too deep.
mhm.
Well,
So
and,
how
see
can
what.
I remedy that? Do I
Well,
just
and
have to-
here's how that can happen too. If you have a perennial bed, tulips, daffodils, and you put a little shredded bark down and it breaks down, and then 2 years later you put some more bark down and it breaks down. Pretty soon you end up, with these tulips, instead of being 2 inches down, they're 3 inches down now because you've kind of added. You didn't really add soil on top of them, but you added. So every once in a while, you got to go in and clean all that old, the 2 and 3 and 4 and 5-year-old bark mulch that's kind of turned into dirt. Get that out of there, and then put a fresh layer of bark mulch down.
But you might
Okay.
want to dig and divide. They might be too crowded.
Uh-huh.
Tulips don't get very crowded, but daffodils do. And then you just
Okay.
don't have any blooms. So it could
Okay.
easily be crowding.
All righty, thanks for the call. We got to take our final break. We're running out of hour.
Wow.
We zip right by here. So yeah, Rademann's again open till noon today, Saturday, Monday through Friday till 4:30, and you can give us a call if you want to stop out, 920-922-7612, or we're located just 3 miles south of Fond du Lac, east on County Trunk B.
And we are back with the final 30 seconds, approximately.
Again, let's if you're tuning in late, go on to KFIZ on demand, and you can listen to earlier part of the show, or visit us online on YouTube. Search Landscape Smart 25, and actually you can subscribe, and it'll pop right up too. So
And there's that closing theme already.
there we go.
But you are open on Saturdays now. That's
So-
the key thing.
So yeah, Rademann's, of course, is open now today until noon, and we're just 3 miles south of Fond du Lac, and you can take Highway 41 or Highway 175 for that matter, I guess, and you'll get to County Trunk B, or you can go through Eden too and find County Trunk B, and then we're about a quarter mile east of 41. Joe's out there. He's got all the answers for all your gardening and pavers and everything that you stone.
All righty. Our thanks to Master Gardener Delores. Of course, thanks to Ron Rademann, and especially our thanks to you for calling in with your questions and emailing them in as well. Back next week with another edition of Landscape Smart.